Hello and welcome to the Art and Times of Jay Ryan. Today we're going to take a look at the new official Marvel Tryout book. Yeah, let's jump right into it. So, we've got a beautiful cover here by Art Thibert, colored by Liquid. I'm going to flip it over here. We got a nice note from Stan Lee on the back. We're going to mostly skim over this. I'm not going to read through all of it because it's going to be very heavy technically, and there are going to be about 5 people who are going to care about that. So skim through it just to kind of give you a feel for what it was doing. So we got an intro by Mark Bagley here. We also have another foreword by John Louis Lewandowski, who was the submissions editor at Marvel at the time. We have a nice big beautiful page here from Legion Quest Part 404. Look at Bishop and Iceman, Psylocke, Storm. Yeah, it's a damn good looking page. Look over here. Oh, we got the full splash here. The final fate of the X-Men. Dreams die. And so look, they have all the CMYK values here. You're seeing some interesting stuff here where it's like really flat shaded all throughout it. But then you have just a little bit of almost like soft shading and stuff as well. But most of it's actually really hard, except for in a few spots. Yeah, it's really cool, like the cut shades and stuff like that there. We'll keep going through here. But yeah, it was an interesting time because most of the line work was actually carrying it, and the colors were more of like an accentuation. They weren't really carrying as much load as a lot of the books do today. You know, you just had very simple cuts and highlight. You know, there wasn't a lot of gradations and textures and stuff like that in the books. Oh, coming here to a full CMYK value set. You know, 50% yellow, 70% yellow, 100% yellow, going through all your grades here. You got a whole big thing on coloring and CMYK values. Yeah, I'm not going to read all this because it's going to take forever. But we're going to pop through some of these, the more basic, straightforward bulletin. Goals and guidelines. The primary purpose of all creative efforts that go into comics is storytelling. Let that hang there for a second. Very simply, anything that improves the entertainment or drama of the story is desirable. Anything that impedes, confuses, or loses the reader is not desirable. Can we get this carved into a stone somewhere? Colorists should prioritize according to these guidelines. I think that's a rule for all storytelling, not just for colorists. Clarity and depth. A reader must understand what he or she is looking at. Color value can be used to pop foreground items from the background items to separate planes within a panel. Representationalism. To create the illusion of reality, colorists should color items in their normal colors when possible. Consider the time of day and the location of the scene. Is it outside or inside? Sun or afternoon? Exceptions should be made for drama and aesthetics, but the end result should never be confusing to the reader. Keep it simple, stupid. Drama. Lighting effects and dramatic color can enhance the mood of the story and aid storytelling, but don't sacrifice clarity for drama. And understand that rendering needs to be done selectively so that all items are not given an equal value. Aesthetics. A good colorist is designing the mood or look of the story. He or she can make the color look good in addition to making it clear and impactful. A clear understanding of color theory can enable a colorist to use the physics of light and emotions associated with different colors to be effective, and can give a colorist a basis on which to break the above rules. And so we got a couple pages here. I'm gonna give this a little spin here. We'll pull them up. So you got a bunch of black and white pages here that look really sick. Yeah, big fan. We got some Rogue, is that Archangel there? So yeah, we're gonna keep going. You know. We've always, goals and guidelines right here has already been very important. Just in general, like rules to live by, I think. Maybe somebody could show this to some people, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we got some more pages here. Professor Xavier, you know, we got Beast hanging upside down there. Gambit, we got the whole crew. Great looking pages. Look at these. Damn, Jean Grey. All right, we're good. Okay, inking. Now we'll pop down to the rules. We'll take a look at the technical information too. I do want to kind of skim over a lot of the stuff. Just weighing it down with me continually reading from it just might get a little tiresome. Tools and technical information. The inker literally redraws the penciler's work in ink right on top of the original pencil line, making the drawing darker, sharper, and less smudgy, and thereby more suitable for printing. They're not tracing, guys. No, not at all. Making it more suitable for printing. All you inkers out there, get ready. Inkers generally use India ink, or other indelible black inks, which are available at any art supply store. Inkers also use various forms of opaque white paint such as Pro White or Snowpake for corrections and occasionally for special effects. These are also available at art supply stores as well as some stationery supply stores. Inkers apply ink over penciled art using a wide variety of pens and brushes. The brushes used are usually a fine point Winsor Newton brush, a size 2 or number 3. The pens are usually artist drawing pens with flexible nibs. Often fine point pens called crow quills are used, but there are no rules about equipment. Just go wild, guys. Just do what you gotta do. If you need a thumb in there, let's do it. Any instrument that puts the ink on the paper and creates the desired effect is fine. See, I told you. In fact, just about anything which puts black or white lines or dots on paper can be used as an inking tool, including thumbs. Oh, there we go, see, thumbs. Forks, Zipatone, sponges, you name it. For a moment though, let's stick with the basics. Alright, so the basics, the goal. As previously stated in the introduction to coloring, the primary purpose of all of the individual creative processes that go into comics is storytelling. Man, I appreciate how hard they're hammering this home. Storytelling. Conveying the story is the best, most effective way. How can an inker who is only finishing and embellishing the penciler's work contribute to storytelling? The inker can't alter the dialogue and must work within the drawings provided by the penciler. But he or she can follow these priorities. Clarity. Make each panel clear and easy to interpret visually. Make it easy for the reader to tell just what he or she is looking at. Work to polish and clarify what the penciler has drawn. Depth. The inker is in complete control of value, meaning how light or dark something is. Careful placement or spotting of black areas can greatly influence the illusion of depth. Thickness of the outlines is another key factor. Creating depth is extremely important to clarity. Generally speaking, large areas come forward and large open or white areas fade back. Another way that depth, texture, and clarity are created is by varying the line weights. This may sound simple, but as a submissions editor, I've seen thousands of pages that prove otherwise. As with coloring, however, it is all relative and each panel is a bit different. Now, some of you might be asking yourself what I meant by varying the line weights. This is a problem that many new inkers, and believe it or not, many pencilers have. This means getting the proper feel for depth. This is often a matter of manipulating the line width and remembering where your subject is in the panel. A good rule of thumb is that objects in the foreground will have a heavier contour or outline than an object in the background. This simple technique creates the illusion of depth. As for what your subject is, brings us to the area of texture. Glass is not the same as rock, is not the same as skin. Learning how to separate these textures can be as easy as changing your tool. Generally, organic objects look best when inked with a brush, and inorganic ones with a pen. It doesn't mean you can't do it all with a brush or a pen, it just makes it easier to identify the difference. Believability. For an inker, like a colorist, this means creating mood, effect, and the illusion of reality. Again, graphic realism isn't really possible or even necessarily desirable. What matters is giving your work a convincing feel. Inkers can do this by using techniques which make round objects look round, and flat objects look flat. Metal look like metal, hair look like hair, glass look like glass, etc. By carefully examining the outstanding work of inker Art Thibert on the preceding pages, you'll be able to see examples of such techniques, and you'll learn a lot about the craft in general. Here's a few suggestions to all wannabe inkers. Work on all the pages sent to you, not just the artists you like. Build up a habit of working on as many different pencilers as possible. You're looking for a wide diversity of styles in order to stretch your abilities and talents to their limits. Another thing I strongly suggest is not to send every page you've worked on. Send only your best, even if it means working on the same pages over and over again. You can do this by inking on vellum, and once you're satisfied with the pages you've worked on, hold them up to the actual comic pages. If they're not as good or better, don't send them. If you want to break into the business, you're going to have to be as good or better than the people already in the business. One last thing. Whenever submitting inking samples, always send Xeroxes of the pencils so we have something to compare the inks with. If you want more pages to work on by a variety of pencilers, send a 10x13 self-addressed stamped envelope with $1.40 postage in care of our submissions department. Ask for inking samples. Good luck. Imagine doing that today. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But all right. So we're gonna bring this up. There's the original pencils. And it says, this page is here to literally illustrate the big difference an inker and his style can lend to a penciled page, or panel in this case. When I decided to include this section for the new tryout book, I got lucky. I wanted to get a variety of talented inkers, each known for a unique style and look, and boy, did I get it. As you can see, Andy Kubert's pencils above are what could be called loose. So it's the inker's job here to tighten them up and add finishing touches that are going to add the texturing, depth, and dimension necessary to this one. For instance, Terry Austin, one of the longtime best inkers in the industry, pretty much followed exactly what Andy laid down. Yep, he sure did. Tom Palmer, another longtime legend in the field, who by adding some blacks to the background helped the two figures pop. That's a very technical word we use in the business. Notice all the differences in the hair, not only between Terry and Tom's, but between all three. Anyone who's ever tried knows hair is one of the toughest things in the world to draw realistically. Notice also a little more texturing in the rock in the foreground. All these little subtleties help make a more convincing and informative panel. Then there's Scott Koblish. Although a relative newcomer in comparison, a heck of a talented artist. Hey, learning from John Romita Sr. didn't hurt. Scott's use of Zipatone for the background, like Tom's use of blacks, helps the characters pop, but opens up the panel a little more, and adds a little more light, giving the colors a little more to work with, and creating a different mood. Scott's detail to the metal wreckage also helps separate the different materials strewn about the panel. Here there is no wrong way, it's just a matter of differences in style, talent, and the way things are looked at. So yeah, so it's pretty neat to actually kind of see the differences between the three takes on it. Because you get an exact same thing, they're just kind of subtlety for sure. And there's things about each one of them that I like better. Personally, I would prefer a stronger black shadow to this crosshatch shadow if you're going to ink it. Certain things like that, that's what I would have if I was going to be doing it. But yeah, that's just me. Okay, so we got scripting and plotting. We're going to kind of gloss over this. A lot of the story stuff, again, storytelling, of course, is the primary goal. Communicating the ideas of the story, generating interest in the story, and keeping our readers aware of the essential information, and most of all, entertaining them. What a wild concept. From the jump, they're really barreling down on telling good stories, and the stories being very important. Creating a good story is the goal. A good story is, in the very broadest sense, is a conflict and its resolution. In order to understand the conflict, some information is required about the individuals involved. Therefore, the simplest possible blueprint for a story is as follows. Introduce the characters, establish their situation, introduce the conflict, which disrupts their situation, build suspense as the conflict develops, reach a climax, a cinematic occurrence is precipitated by the forces in the conflict, and then show the resolution. So yeah, like that's the kind of thing. It's like you want a beginning, middle, end. You want to introduce the characters. It's kind of like, I think about it's kind of a weird abstract, but think about the original Ghostbusters movie. And whenever they first kind of go into the library, that's their first battle, right? Like they show up, they're unprepared, and they lose. And they run, they retreat, and then they get their gear together. They figure out, oh, we can possibly capture these because of the readings that Egon gets. So they can go back and capture it. You know what I mean? So they're growing, they're immediately learning from that loss. And as you build up, they start getting their first victories. So it's tell a story. You have to give them a trial, and they have to overcome it, and it has to go somewhere. And I think Ghostbusters really does that. For me, Ghostbusters has always been almost like the first 20 minutes of Ghostbusters, I feel, is almost perfect storytelling. Because like I said, you introduce the characters, so you basically introduce the three main Ghostbusters before they need the fourth. You establish their situation. They show up at the library. There's ghosts. They get their butt kicked, which is the conflict that disrupts their situation. You build suspense as the conflict develops. So they've lost. How are they going to catch ghosts? Everything goes crazy. That you're reaching the climax of Ghostbusters. When all the ghosts are coming out and everything's going crazy. And then you show the resolution and they can beat the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's perfect. Ghostbusters is the perfect introduction. It's all there. Ghostbusters. This is not a formula. It's a definition. Unless those elements are present in a work, it's not a story. It may be something else, but it's not a story. These basic elements listed above are in every story from Little Miss Muffet to War and Peace. Boom! Let's go. Alright, so we're gonna continue to skim over that. I think that says a lot, how important the story is. We got lettering here. Now back in the 90s, these people were doing all this lettering by hand. Computer stuff was coming in. So all that stuff is really interesting. Like they talk about Adobe Illustrator here, the hardware, the computer. So they're into computer coloring, they're into computer lettering and everything like that. They're talking about IBMs or Macs. And so yeah, you know, they're talking about color monitors, printers, they're talking about using Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, Fontographer, you know, fonts. And then we're going to come back to the bottom part here. The letterer shares the same goal as the writer and the artist. Storytelling. That's right. The goal. Everybody has a goal here. Storytelling. Always the goal. Letterer shares the same goal as the writer and the artist. Storytelling. I think they're trying to tell people something here. That's just my guess. If we've come away and we've learned anything here today, it's storytelling. We got the plot to X-Men number 44. Story page number 5. Both of these things are broken up into, here are the panels. He's got 6 panels here, and then here is the dialogue. So that's interesting that it's separated into 2 pages. The shot's laid out, and then the script separate. I've seen some scripts where they're combined, where it would, you know, be page 1, panel 1, this is what happens in it, and then below it's the script, or vice versa, right? So it's like scenes, dialogue for the scenes. I think that would probably help a lot of script writers out to separate them, just for a more visual description for the artists, and then the dialogue. Because as long as the artist knows what's going on in the scene, he doesn't really need to know exactly what they're saying to understand that, like, the path that's happening where she's handing him the towel, Xavier's drying himself off. So yeah, it says here, this is a great example of condensing your storytelling. Here, Andy condensed details from panels 1 and 2, eliminating one panel, allowing more room for close-ups and dialogue. So this went from a 6 panel to a 5. This panel would have been originally 2 panels in the original script. So he has cut angle showing Amelia, her face cold and angry, but her eyes looking haunted and in pain. She is looking down at Charles as he struggles to get himself into a sitting position. He is exhausted. She drops towel. So there's her throwing the towel at him. So they put those 2 together. You got Charles wiping his face. Got a real flash of bitterness. I'm not sure you're going to get that out of that. You might have wanted to show more of his face there, but that's just me. She stands behind the desk looking over several sheets of printer paper. And so you're going to go to 4. He's what? Stands behind the desk looking at paper. I mean, I guess she's standing there at the desk. Face cold, lit by the rising sun's light coming through the windows. I mean, yeah, close-up shot of her face. So Charles in panel 6, I'm not in the mood for a philosophical debate with you of all people right now, Amelia. My main concern is trying to find out if Scott, Jean, Peter, and Magnus are even alive. So, beard stubble, wet, what I believe that says. Alright, so we flip over, and we're getting more script pages. Once again, Andy's combined situation from a number of panels, giving a little more room for some clear storytelling and a nice, moody final panel. And so you gotta love this about the artist, because like this would have been like a 7-panel page. Probably unnecessarily so. It's probably unnecessary as a 6-panel page, but we'll have a quick look at it here. So again, we have a writer giving us 7 panels, and the artist breaking it down to 6. And I'm not even sure I like it. Based on what's said here, it's like cut to nighttime as the acolytes sit around a campfire. Scott sits about 15 yards away from them, a single torch lighting his area as he uses a stick to scratch on the ground. So like he does an interesting thing here with panel 1 and 2 as he combines them. Scanner walking up to him and asking what he's doing. So it's like he's about 15 yards away, but he doesn't say vertically or horizontally. So the artist just puts him up above them. He's separated from them, but he's up above, you know. So she walks up behind him in panel 2, but is script-wise panel 3. You could have had any number of shots here. You could have had like an establishing shot where you have the group of the acolytes sitting around a campfire, like here, like, but they're heavy foreground. So the fire's the center, Scott's way in the background, and you could have Scanner walking away from the fire towards him. So you could have a large kind of widescreen shot of that happening. There's definitely other ways to do this, but for the page layout and for what's being asked of him, it's pretty good. I don't know if I would have done it that way. I probably would have done something different. But, I'm not going to, poop on it or anything. And so we have some really weird panels here. So this would be panel 3, which is now panel 2 because of what happened here. So panel 3, she walks up behind him, asks him a question, and then we get this series of super tight headshots. And it's actually really hard to tell what the actual action is. Because if you look here, she's like right up behind him, like peekabooing over his shoulder. And then here she's around his shoulder and you see just his visor and the bridge of his nose. It's actually really odd. I'm sure it would pop better in color. I'm sure it's a yellow, and they've got like her probably a darker color or lit, from the side or something like that. So it's actually a really bizarre tight panel. She'd have to be so close to him to get that shot. It's just funny. So it's a bizarre shot to me of just like headshots. And then so we get number 5. You think we'll be saved, Mr. Summers? She asks with bright eyes of hope. As you see, they're nowhere near, like you don't see this bright eyes of hope. And then 7 pull out to a hazy moon. So yeah, if we look at the script, we got Scott, I know we'll be Scanner, I promise. It's a very interesting like page layout and script comparison. I do really enjoy seeing these. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, like this is kind of the stuff that I feel like is invaluable because you get to see what the writers put out there and then what the actual finished page turned into. And also because a lot of these guys they don't talk. Fabian just would have wrote the script and then Andy just would have like looked over, maybe not, he might not have even seen any of the dialogue at all. And then they just came in and put it all in later. Like that happens so much. So like could have just been like, he could have got these and I can condense all this. And then once they started throwing word balloons over everything, it's just how it ended. It's just the way it was. This page is a good example of giving the writer exactly what he wants, but doing it in a way that's visually interesting. Notice how, although no 2 panels are from the same angle, the storytelling is very clear yet leaves enough room for copy. Pencilers, remember that when you don't leave enough room for the dialogue and copy, that leaves the writer no choice but to cover your artwork with text. Even in close-up situation, allow room. This is an equal partnership between you and the writer. All right, we're going to pop over here. We've got cut angle showing the inside of the communication center from the base. Scott, he's way at the back here, sits at the console. Its interior circuit board all splayed out and gutted, showing that they had to work on in order to get it fired up. In the Australian outback at the abandoned town, which the X-Men used for the base. We got some stairs. I guess we got some, I'm not sure if that's fully mechanical or if that's mountains or what back there. There is some hooks there. It's kind of a little unclear, but I guess when they're saying it's the Australian outback, I'm going to assume that's all rock back there. And then so we're going to pop into panel 2, Xavier and Amelia looking at a monitor. Panel 3, we got Scott looking at the circuit board, and then panel 4. That's kind of interesting. So panel 4 is a split panel, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of weird that it's different from the script. We got more panels than the script is saying. Very bizarre. So I guess he just gave more panels than was asked for. He wanted it done in 5 when he wanted it done in 4. He gives and he takes. Clearly, he basically, so he could squeeze all the stuff in. Xavier and Amelia are here and here as well. So yeah, really interesting to look at the script like that. All right, so we're going to look at page 21. On this page, although Andy didn't exactly draw the mystery person exactly as requested, it still works. I do not recommend anyone trying out taking liberties like this. You should follow the plot as is. I mean, he's been taking liberties this whole time, it looks like. But that also goes back to, like, is he taking liberties or is he getting both of these pages? If he's only getting this page and has no idea about the script, he might just be doing what he thinks is best, because I've read some scripts and a lot of writers who don't understand how comics work will have multiple actions in a panel. They'll be like, okay, he opens the door and puts down his keys and turns on the TV. Panel 1. And you're like, what? You can't have somebody open a door, put down their keys, and turn on the TV in one panel. You just can't do it. But yeah, you just can't do 3 actions in one panel unless the panel is like you're kind of showing shadows, like you're locking it in place and you're showing the person move through the panel. So you'd have 3 different drawings of him opening the door, setting the keys down, and doing the thing. And it just doesn't work. You would prefer to have him coming through the door. If you think it's valuable for his keys to be set down, you have a panel where he's setting his keys down. So it's like hey, later those keys are going to be important. Check it out. Then he's like sitting there on the couch with a remote. You don't do all of them in one panel. It just looks bad. Like, it's not like you have Daredevil and he's jumping from here to here to here to there. You can do that in one panel where you're showing how quickly he's popping through a scene, because you don't necessarily need 5 panels of him jumping. He's not in a fight, he's not whatever, he's just scaling a building or something like that, or coming down from a building. So you don't need that. This is page 21. 21 pages in, we're cutting to an establishing shot of Magneto's Antarctic base. It's daytime, no snow. Okay, it's not snowing there. So we cut to the inside, showing the back of a mysterious person, and I guess, that's not their back. I'll give them that. They're kind of hunched over there, but I guess if they were shaded in far enough, you don't know who they are. You don't know who they are, or they have a mysterious design. Then you could get away with that, I suppose, where he goes away from showing the back of the mysterious person in bulky coat and scarves, which are clogged with frozen snow, as we see Peter lying on a diagnostics table as several servobots attend to him. Second panel, cut angle inside, showing the back of the mysterious person removing the bulky coat and scarves. See, like, here we go. Here's exactly what I'm talking about. So you have the back of the mysterious person removing bulky coat and scarves, which are clogged with frozen snow, as we see Peter lying on the diagnostics table as servobots attend to him. That's why he didn't do what you asked. You asked him to remove a bulky coat, as we see this other person doing this. So he was just like, I'm just going to have this person sitting, because you're asking me to do multiple things. It's exactly what we're talking about. And that's why he ignored this. So panel 3, closer, the mystery person removes the face shield. So that would be this, I guess. So you can only see one eye looking down at Peter. The other is wearing a black eye patch. No, none of that's even really happening there. Both of those things are kind of messed up. So he's totally ignoring everything he's got going on here, because if this is what's happening here, and then so it's like even closer. Peter's hands reach up suddenly, turning into organic steel, clutching and crushing one of the hovering servo drones like an egg. So he's grabbing that there. And then cut angle showing Colossus as he rises from the table. Who are you, he asks. Yeah, that's weird, like, because he just basically shows, so like he totally ignores both of these parts of the script. And like I said before, he's like, hey, you're asking me to do multiple actions, take off a jacket, remove a scarf, while this other thing's happening. So he just sets them there. That makes more sense to me. So boom, we get back to penciling. A penciler does his work on artboard, guided by a story plot created by a writer. It is the basis for what to draw. The next 5 story pages of this book are blank, except for the standard Marvel artboard markings. The story plot for those pages appears on the following page, for you to refer to as professional penciler would. This simulates the actual working conditions professional Marvel Comics pencilers face. And so, tools and technical information, what are they looking for in a penciler in 1996? First and foremost, a good storyteller can draw Marvel characters who look and act right. I'll just leave that there. He's the one who's going to imagine the panels and the panel sequences that will best dramatize what the writer has described in the plot. Then he has to draw them in pencil. Pencilers generally use fairly ordinary pencils. Usually they prefer pencils with a rather hard lead, a number 2, HB or harder, which is less messy and easier on the inker. Some use mechanical pencils or special artist pencils. Some even use erasable blue pencils. There are no rules about equipment. Any erasable pencil you find comfortable is fine. So they're going to the goal. Storytelling. Again, they're hammering home how important storytelling is dependent on what the penciler has drawn and portrayed. True, the writer of the plot begins the creative process. He creates the story. But the penciler is the first to tell the story in the form that the readers will eventually see. He's creating, in effect, a silent movie, but in still pictures. Generally speaking, there are 3 basic kinds of shots: long shots, medium shots, and close-ups. Though, of course, there are exceptions. Each shot is generally good for conveying certain kinds of information as described below. Then they go on to describe long shots, medium shots, close-ups. And that's it. The next 5 pages are blank, so you can try your hand at the plots that's on the back of the inside cover. In it, you'll find a wide variety of locations, situations, and expressions, which is what every good submission should have. Some Marvel illustration quality paper for comics. We got the 5 pages here, and we're going to go flip through. We're going to make our way to the script on the back. Okay, and so here's the sample plot. Just in case any of you would like to try your hand at this. Page 1. A nice in-your-face action sequence. Arcade commandeers the Danger Room. At his feet is a fallen Professor X. Below him in the Danger Room, the X-Men are going through an exercise. Arcade is gloating and ready and more than happy to put the X-Men through hell. Page 2. Arcade programs an all-out in-your-face action sequence in the Savage Land. Here, not only is the team fighting Sora, but they're also fending off a raptor or 2 and maybe a pterodactyl or 3. Although the team fights well, they're not coming out of this fight and the following ones unscathed. I'd like to show that they are fighting for their lives. Arcade means business and wants them dead, but not too quickly. And so this is a very similar shot. We have Arcade up here, and we've got a whole bunch of them, presumably in Danger Room-like scenario. Pretty cool. Anyway, we'll continue. Just as the group seems to gain some fighting ground, and he is obviously happy about it, Arcade reprograms, inset, ? The settings for the X-Men, and page 3. The X-Men are now up against a handful of Sentinels in the heart of Manhattan. The Sentinels waste no time in laying into the X-Men. Determined and focused team once again fight for their lives. As before, just when our heroes seem to get the upper hand, another program is set up. Yep, another insert of Arcade cackling with amusement. Page 4. The team is now in an alien environment, combating creatures that no one has ever seen before. This is a chance for the artist's imagination to go nuts. Be original. It's during this sequence that one of the aliens brutally kills Cyclops. Shocked spitless, the X-Men quickly regain their composure and fight back with a vengeance, only for the program to end. Up in the Danger Room control booth, we see a downed Arcade laying beside the sprawled figure of the Professor. In the shadows is a mysterious figure who's taken Arcade by surprise. The team below, in the Danger Room, immediately look for Scott, who is nowhere to be found. They're relieved that Scott's death was apparently part of Arcade's sick game. Page 5. The X-Men now relax in the rec room type setting. They're talking amongst themselves, maybe playing a game of chess or generally recovering from the day's events. And so, what's interesting about these 5 pages is they're looking for very specific things, right? Page 1, they're looking for a big Danger Room sequence with a whole bunch of pterodactyls, raptors fighting. They're looking for like a big splash shot with an inset. Just like this cover here. This is a very smart inset. And so basically they're looking for this kind of shot, like a big splash page shot. Page 2. Right here, there's this big fight, the Savage Land. And so they want to see mountains, volcanoes, they want to see jungle, they want to see this big shot. So you're getting organic kind of stuff. And then page 3, the X-Men are now up against a handful of Sentinels in Manhattan. So city shots, streets, cars, robots. So instantly a change of environment. You have to change up your style. Page 4, they're on an alien environment. So they're like, hey, can you make aliens? Can you make something that looks like a weird alien planet? Right there. And then page 5 is, can you draw people being normal in a house, sitting down around, in a rec room playing pool, whatever. And so it's very interesting and very specific what they're looking for. It's kind of like the equivalent to like, hey, we want Hulk smashing through a wall. We want Spider-Man swinging through the city. Like they very much want to see certain shots and your ability to do them. So yeah, this is really cool. And yeah, I think it's really interesting that they did this. This is something they would never do now. And so yeah, I think this is a great book if you wanted to be a comic book artist in 1996. Yeah, I do think this book is really cool. I do think that, if we could go back in time to 1996, this would be a great tool. I mean, it's a great tool now, to be fair, but we just live in a different time. This is a great book to learn from as an independent creator. I guess I'll say that right. be a real benefit to a lot of new artists and maybe some old ones. I think it's still very relevant. There's still a lot of very useful and important information in this book. Storytelling being one of those key nuggets that you could glean from it. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. Next time, who knows what we'll look at? But until then, this was the new official Marvel Tryout book. It still has a ton of very important information in it. Storytelling, and it being entertaining, all those things hugely important. Clarity of panel and story. So yeah, let's celebrate storytelling. Let's get back to it. If you liked everything you've seen here today, like, comment, subscribe, share it out, ring the bell for notifications. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.